The term the Great Resignation was first coined in 2020 by Anthony Klotz, a psychologist and professor at Texas A&M University, when he discovered that record number of workers were quitting jobs. Now, it's been a trend the world over, and it shows no signs of abating. And that's exactly why we are speaking about it today. In fact, 1 in 5 workers plan to quit their jobs in 2022. This is according to one of the largest surveys of the global workforce conducted by the consultancy firm PwC in March 2022. Now, according to that report, which surveyed over 52,000 people across 44 countries and territories, most people are quitting for higher salaries. But 2/3 of them say that they are also seeking more fulfillment in the workplace. Hi, I'm Miloni Bhatt. Welcome to ET Catalyse. And I have with me two people to help us get a sense of the Great Resignation, the India edition, and how the story is actually playing out on the ground. Joining me, Kartik Rishi, partner, people and organization practice at PwC. Welcome to ET Catalyse, Kartik.
Thank you, Miloni. Glad to be here.
And I have with me Mr. Vinod Rai, Assistant Vice President and Head Human Resources, Maruti Suzuki. Good to have you here.
Yes, thank you, Miloni. It's really a pleasure to be here.
You know, the pandemic upended a lot of things, right? The economies, businesses that drive it, and people who are at the heart of it. Now, what's also broken are the yardsticks that we've had to mark the shifts, changes, progress. Now, in this backdrop, and this question is to the both of you, how have you seen the Great Resignation play out in corporate India since 2020? Mr. Rai, if you want to go first.
See, if I see the Great Resignation from the manufacturing point of view, we have seen the trend is increasing day by day, but it is not very alarming as of now in the manufacturing industry I'm talking about. The Great Resignation which we have seen in India so far is in the IT domain. So a lot of people from the manufacturing company who got the opportunity to move to coding or something, that direction, they have quit. Now, why they are quitting? But during the COVID time, they got opportunity to work from the home. While working from the home, they realize there are companies who want to hire them in a better salary, and they are allowed to work in the comfort of their family, with the safety, and they can take care of healthcare also. So those are the people, they started moving on. I will again divide this entire thing into two categories. Now, if you see the manufacturing company, the people who are in the age bracket of 25 to 30 years, younger population, they are more inclined to move toward higher salary. People from 30 plus category, they were looking for the benefit also, like a medical benefits, so and the job role, job content. So they were sticking back, and they are still watch and wait is going on from their side also. So as of now, if I tell you with my experiences, there is an increase in resignation right now, but we are not very highly concerned at this point of time because it's not so alarming. That's on the manufacturing side.
Manufacturing perspective, right? Yeah. Okay, Kartik, from your vantage, how are you seeing it play out?
So, Miloni, I would second my colleague, Mr. Rai, on that different industries are experiencing this very differently. And if you were to look at currently, we are in a stage wherein there is high attrition and consequently dearth of talent in organizations, which is starting to impact organization strategies and plans. In fact, as per one of our surveys, workforce is actually the #1 risk to growth currently. And also, it's the #1 enabler for businesses to be able to implement their strategies and reach their goals. Now, it's actually impacted in 2-3 ways. One is that organizations are struggling for talent, and this spans across industries. Even the manufacturing sector has gotten impacted to some extent, but perhaps lesser than some of the others. And at the same time, employers are now scampering to find the best ways to retain this talent. So what you find is that employers are using various mechanisms which are targeted towards enhancing the employee experience, enabling them through a stronger support system. That's actually, in a way, led to the employees getting a bit of the upper hand, in terms of the flexibility, in terms of some of the benefits which are there. At the same time, one worrying factor is that because employers are leaving and firms are unable to hire people at the same speed, the people who are left behind are the folks who are under pressure. The last 6 months, whatever conversations I've had with a lot of organizations, the #1 point of concern for them is that their employees are getting burnt out. There is a challenge in terms of bandwidth, work-life balance, because the people who are left behind are the ones who are actually pulling much more than their weight. So quite a bit of impact, both on employees who've left, employees who are staying behind, and on the organization as well.
All right. I want to talk about the IT industry specifically, that to the point that Mr. Rai brought in, where there is news of high attrition, but firms have also significantly cooled down on hiring, according to newspaper reports, considering high inflation the world over and concerns over recession in the US and Europe. Now, how do you see this behavior triggered by the IT majors in India impact hiring across the board, especially tech companies in the country? And, what kind of an effect, a ripple effect, if at all, it will have? Mr. Rai?
Yeah, that's a very right question, Miloni. Uh, Presently, we are also working on it. Now, what we have seen with our experiences, some people are going to lose. We are going to lose. We don't mind losing those people. But
Mm,
what impact a company if you lose a critical talent? A critical talent you need to define. Whom do you call critical talent? Maybe they are not easily available in the market, very expensive in the market, difficult to develop those talent. We don't want to lose that talent, high potential or the critical talent. This is part number one. Part number two, lot of people they have moved to the IT industry, thinking in their mind that the salary is the one component which will help them to achieve what they want to achieve there. But what we have seen with experiences, the people from manufacturing industry, those who have shifted or migrated to IT industry, they are not able to fulfill their desire. Now, if you see the manufacturing company, we do a lot of hiring with the graduate engineers.
right.
We hire from IITs, IIM, you name the campuses across the globe we hire here. The people who join us, they join because that's their dream. We have seen some of the global IT companies, global, I will not take the name. They
Mm,
are the top of the top. They hired
mm,
people from manufacturing company,
mm,
but they are unable to retain them also.
mm,
Initially, they felt all right. They have worked for 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. Now we are seeing the communication. They want to come back. So how companies are currently working on the manufacturing side, they are investing a lot of time, effort, and money to retain their high potential, critical talent.
Kartik, there are two very important points, both, points made by you and, of course, by Vinod. Now, one of the points is that this trend of the Great Resignation in India seems to be more when it comes to industries, it's IT, and it is certain types of jobs, right? But can you give us a sense of the trends when it comes to other industries, even say geographies within India, if at all we can get to that granular level, and demographics, but because both of you have said that it was not a wave that actually has swept everyone and everything.
It's actually a wave that's impacted everyone, let me put it that way. The impact of this has been disproportionate depending on the industries, roles that one is a part of. So to give you a picture of, and this is basis the study that you just spoke about right at the beginning, specifically if we were to look at India, apart from IT, telecom, professional services has been impacted in a pretty big way. Those are also jobs which one can operate remotely as well. Similarly, there has been attrition on the retail side, on the financial services side as well. So these are industries that have got largely impacted. Uh, Industries like health and some pockets of manufacturing have gotten impacted to a slightly lesser extent. I would call it more of a medium impact. And then some of the others like chemicals, energy, metals, minings are potentially the ones wherein there has been least impact. So there is a certain pegging order. Uh, for us, everyone's gotten impacted. But again, there is a huge variation. The other element is that when we talk about the trend, we actually have observed that the chances of Gen Z and the millennials in moving out has been a lot more. So the likelihood, even continuing in the future, and Gen Z essentially would be people between the ages of 18 to 25 right now. Millennials would be 26 to 41. Compared to, let's say, Gen X, which is about 40 to to late 50s, and baby boomers, which would go on up till 70s, right? So effectively, that's a trend that we've seen, that the younger folks have been the ones who've been shifting more. And even going into the future, they are more likely to shift.
Right.
The third element that I wanted to talk about was essentially the role. It's not that it's a broad brush through which each and every industry is getting painted. So
Right.
there are certain roles which are more critical in nature, wherein the demand is much higher. Let's say digital. You try and hire people with an AI background or cloud computing in the current environment. It's very difficult. So it's also role specific. These are the employees who are a lot more in demand. Uh, and to top it all, they know about it.
Okay, when I talk to family and friends since the pandemic, it's almost like, people have hit a reset button, right? Like everyone's reconsidering the work-life balance, and, it's not a catchphrase anymore for a lot of us. People are shuffling jobs rather than possibly fully exiting the labor market. And due to continuing pandemic-linked health fears, many are reluctant to return to in-person jobs. And the other thing of what I hear a lot is people saying that they want to be valued. So of course, money is a factor, and I'm this is all anecdotal. But I'd be interested to know that, what is the what are the key driving factors for Indian employees to leave their organizations, and are those trends very different to say global trends? Kartik, if you could shed some light.
I actually call them the 4 Ps of the Great Resignation, as akin to the 4 Ps of marketing. So, one of the key elements, Miloni, is priorities. All of us have been hit by COVID in some way or the other, and there are near and dear ones who've gotten impacted. So, what's happened is, especially during the second wave last year and then the Omicron earlier this year, a lot of people started contemplating about their own priorities in life. So what's happened is that people have now started focusing a lot more on family, flexibility, having more time to do other things outside of work. So the priorities of individuals have truly changed in many ways. And the younger folks are more likely to essentially go in that direction. The second element linked to that is purpose. A lot of people during this time have decided that if they want to give it a shot to do what they truly want to do, and they've realized that life is unpredictable with what's happened over the last couple of years, people have actually decided to go in for different kind of work which may be outside their field. Some have picked up jobs which are in a completely different industry, or even exited the workforce in some cases. And interestingly, when we surveyed, 75% of the respondents actually said that they wanted to work for an organization that would make a positive contribution to society. So it's not just about my purpose, it's also about, am I working for an employer that's doing something more than just earning money? The third is propensity towards change. So when the pandemic hit, for the first 1 year, there were very few jobs in the market. In fact, people were losing jobs. So for 1 year, people couldn't really shift out. At the same time, we were in our home, stuck, no changes happening there, unable to travel for vacations. So human beings have some propensity to change, and it was this need to change, which was also facilitated by the fact that because it was virtual, there was limited connect that remained with employers, which facilitated it. And the last element is pay. Pay to me actually came a little later in the mix, because it's not that the early folks who left were going out at very high salaries, but over a period of time, others have realized that people are getting much higher salaries. There's a war for talent. So that's kind of increased the momentum of that. So I would actually boil down to these four critical elements because of which people have decided to move out.
To this point, I'm sure many organizations have had to scramble and manage this, right? Because a lot of people have quit, a lot of new workforce could be coming in. While you definitely said that, manufacturing has been hit less than perhaps IT, but, I'd be interested to know whether organizations have started to put together a great retention plan or strategies, to combat the resignations who simply want a better deal.
90% people we are leaving because they are either going for higher education or they are going into IT or other domain, very similar domain. Because where
So
they are
they're
getting
moving industries.
changing industry for a higher salary
Right.
and going close to their family. Suppose somebody from North India, if you're working in my company, he will not leave. He is finding very comfortable working in in this company. Suppose if he want to move out, he will give exam. He will tell ki I want to leave because my boss is not good, something like that. But the people who have left for last 1 year, we have found more than 80% people have gone to other industry. So that's point number. Anyhow, we are losing talent means we are losing talent because we are spending so much of money, hiring them, developing them, and we send to Japan and everything, global experiences. Who want to lose those talent? So Maruti, we are reinventing everything again. So what we have realized for last few months only, why people are leaving us, no matter what junior or middle people working there, it is because of their immediate boss. Who is the immediate boss? So we came out with a number one strategy. We have to again redevelop the first line managers, because for the junior guy, his first line manager is the company. How is he managing the people? So every manager has to manage the person, how they're going to manage, how are they going to bring the emotional connect, how you're connecting with the family. So we are once again going for a complete big drive on the training of the first line managers on the empathy side, because he need to make the person working down the line, there's the same purpose. He has to give the goal to him. You have to make them feel that your contribution is valued in the organization. Though you have to manage the task also, task orientation definitely one part of it, but you have to also give these young people, because they are very emotionally want to get connected to the company. So we are working on some kind of strategy on the first line manager. That's the part number one. Part number two, you have to be competitive also, salary, because salary is one area where IT industry is offering a big in a big way. So you need to be competitive. So that's another strategy. We are working on it. We are going to come out with some incentive kind of structure, some long-term benefit will be there. So that's part number two. Part number three, we are also working on to give the enriching the role, who had aspiration to learn and develop themselves in some other role. Somebody who's working in the marketing want to go into R&D, R&D guy going to supply chain want to go to quality, production. So we are opening the window now. Whosoever wanted to have aspiration, why lose our talent to outside world? Let's lose talent internally. So that's the part number three. We are working on it. And the fourth also, we are coming out with a very good review mechanism at the top level. We are creating a kind of committees. A committee is going to do all the reviews. How are you managing the people? How many times have you interacted with them? Have you interacting with the family? We came out with the policy, every department has to go for a picnic with the family, and the entire cost will be borne by the company. The idea is to create, kind of emotional connect. So that 2-3 strategies, this is happening because of what happened in the past. So you cannot manage the people with the old thought which you're doing in 90s and 2000. You need to bring something new now.
Basis what Vinod said, Kartik, we are now in a candidate's job market, right? So the bargaining power has shifted from the employer to the employee. The other point is that, people now want to work with an organization rather than for an organization, right? So that again is a shift. And as you said, people want purpose, and of course they want to be valued. So, it could be money wise, but valued otherwise also in an organization. Now, can you help us understand two things? Now, in terms of roles, this is something that Vinod just mentioned, that, they're re-looking at roles. So what are people looking for when it comes to roles? What is that extra? And second, in terms of money, what's the average hike that they want? And has it changed from the 15 to 30% that people look at when they typically change jobs?
So in terms of roles, I think there are 2-3 things, and people look at roles very differently. I think what people have always wanted, and this is not something new, Miloni, is they want a career path.
Right.
So they want a career path to be panned out for them being aware also what's required for them to be able to go on that career path and make it to where they're wanting. So some of this requires role expansion, some of this requires shifting of roles. So all employees are saying is that, can you enable us in the current environment? Secondly, there are a lot of changes that are happening in the work environment itself. The entire digital piece has taken people by surprise in many ways. It obviously got accelerated during COVID. And therefore, employees are also now reaching out and saying, can you provide me with additional skilling so that I'm able to understand the new landscape, so that I'm sure that my job has value? So to me, one is the role. The second is what skills are required in the new landscape, that's important. In terms of salaries, it's actually pretty wide. We've come across industries in which people are sticking to the standard 20-30%, and it is 20-30. It's no longer 10-15 as it used to be in certain cases. But there are also cases and skills when they are important, people asking for 50%, people asking for double. There are a couple of clients we've been working with, which at times have given 2 or 3 increases in the same year to retain talent. So effectively, if an employee was earning X, by the end of 1.5, 2 years, the employee is earning 3X or 4X, because those skills are very important. But again, I won't apply a broad brush because it varies by the role that I'm doing. It also varies by industry, the demand and supply equation as well.
All right. Okay. Those are some good insights. The way we work, of course, has changed, and you spoke of remote jobs, flexi work environment, and all of that. But, Vinod, what's been the challenge with remote working from an HR perspective? Especially if you have managers who want people back, but, people are not willing to return. And I don't know how much of a challenge that is for manufacturing. And the second part to that is, how do you assimilate people who've joined in the pandemic and have only worked remotely for teams? So how has that work culture shifted?
We have seen the shift now happen now during the COVID time. We came out of the policy also work from home, because you cannot work in isolation. Others are doing. So we are facing another challenge now. Challenge like that, the people who are working from the home, now they are complaining that my boss calls me anytime. It could be 9:30, 10 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock in the night. So now there's no time limit now. So we have to continuously, anytime the boss will give us a call, and we have to go back to the system and revert him back. So we are facing now, putting a standard there, you should not call between this to that time. However, the kind of industry where we are working, only a non-production area, wherever it is possible, we are allowing people to work from the home, at least for once or twice in a week. But at this point of time, we have not gone fully for the work from the home, because the nature of work which currently we are doing, even the R&D also, the kind of design we are doing, we don't allow them to work from home because there are a lot of confidentialities are involved there. So some area which we have identified can be worked from the home, but presently 100% we have not gone for the work from the home policy. Hybrid model is there, we are working on it, but it will evolve slowly.
But are more people within the organization demanding for hybrid work?
So the people who have resigned, the people who have gone out, they have requested that we want to work from the home. Now they want to work from home because we are not Indian-based company. Now they wanted to work from the home in Kerala or Andhra, very interior from the Andhra Pradesh, where connectivity is the issue. We have worked on a pilot also, but it has not been successful here, and we are still deliberating it how we can do that.
Okay. So you are looking at
but there are a demand. There people want that.
There is demand.
Allow us to work from the home.
Okay. Kartik, I'm interested to know what the trends for women are in the Great Resignation, because hybrid working suits women, right? I mean, it suits everyone, I feel, but, it works for women more, right? Because women juggle a lot, home, kids, perhaps parents' home. What are the trends for women in the formal workforce and out of it during the Great Resignation, and now with the shift to hybrid working, what is the trend line like?
Miloni, that's an interesting one and actually an important one. I would actually say that for women, it's a double-edged sword. On one side, there are pros to women working from home. So how does it help? It helps women who traditionally could not be a part of the working population be able to work. So there are some women who actually joined the workforce. I know of people who are related to me who started working. They had stopped working 7 years ago after having a kid. Secondly, it allows, let's say, a woman who's gone on maternity leave and had childbirth, allows that woman to continue in the workforce, whereas traditionally, maybe some of them would have fallen out of the workforce as well. And it allows women to manage some of these elements a little better because they're saving time. And in a city like Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore, you're saving a lot of time, which you would otherwise travel. Having said that, there is a flip side to it. A recurring theme that's been observed in multiple studies is that women are more likely to carry out their domestic responsibilities while working flexibly. whereas men are more likely to focus on their work. One of the studies essentially says that men with or without kids and women without children, when they have additional time, they are plowing it back into their work. And I've done that. I'm an example of that too. I had additional time, I would work extra. Whereas women with children are unable to do it. Now, imagine you have an employee who's able to stretch a fair bit, accomplish a lot more, whereas the other who, because of the fact that she's taking care of kids at home, other family responsibilities, is not able to. Now, does that mean one may get preferred over the other? There is always that possibility that may happen. Similarly, what's also happening is that traditionally, and a lot of research says this, women are not very vocal about themselves. They don't promote themselves as much as men do. And networking currently in many industries, especially in manufacturing in India, it's predominantly a male dominated environment. Now, when you're in person, it's still a lot easier for you to generate that rapport connect. But when you're working remotely, then it could become a lot more difficult for women to generate that rapport, because traditionally they would not put themselves out there as much as men would. And also, when we've done the study, what we realized was that men were more likely to choose the option to either go hybrid or work from office. Women are more likely to work remotely. Now, what that means is that the chances of women being able to connect with people will reduce, become visible will reduce. So, for example, there's an impromptu meeting and I'm in office. Who will I call? The person who's around. Now, that is the double-edged sword. So, my only worry is that, is it that we are ensuring better retention of women and more women in the workforce at the cost of lesser advancement of women to senior levels because they might get overlooked for promotion or for development?
Mr. Vinod Rai, I want to ask you, remote working is also, I know that for manufacturing companies, it's not feasible and it's not possible in all sorts of roles, very few roles perhaps. But, when you see it from an HR perspective and from your vantage, it is a real opportunity for companies also, right? Like, because they can now tap into people globally. Your market has expanded and suddenly there is an importance to gig workers, which was perhaps not there previously. There is a flatter work structure and there could be more gig workers. What do you think?
How it will evolve in the future in manufacturing or any other industry is that a lot of satellite office will be evolved in India. All remote places, because that will be another tool for retention. So we will also think on those lines also. But why should we lose good talent? Let them allow to work, because this is a trend, and this is going to stay here in India or any part of the world. We cannot remain isolated to that. So we have to change that. This is part number one. Part number two, we have seen that you need a lot of young people. But the kind of work which you're doing, and young people will now demand. It's a question of demand and supply. So we want a good talent, and the good talent. Who are the good talent? Rishi also mentioned they know very well that I am the good talent, and the people who are good talent only they leave the company. Average talent, most likely they will stay with the company. So for any good talent or the high potential talent, sooner or later, no matter which industry you are from, you have to come out with a strategy to allow them to work from the home, open the satellite offices, or give them all kind of bouquet of them, so they should feel comfortable and they can contribute. So I'm sure it's a matter of time only when we can start thinking and deliberating on the satellite office.
Kartik, what are your views on gig workers and their importance now with the changing environment and in the future of jobs?
Gig workers, the economy of gig is actually expected to see an uptick. It's already happening. A lot of organizations who, when they are faced with the scarcity of talent, are reaching out to gig workers to fill in those gaps which are there. So what we would find is that essentially there'll be a lot more employment for gig workers. It's possible that some organizations, because there is so much of unsurety, uncertainty about what's going to happen in the future around business, may actually choose to have a certain part of their workforce as gig, because you're not tied down by as strong a contract as for permanent employees. At the same time, you can choose specialized skills, you can have them operate. But it does require a different way of engaging with them and making sure that they feel like a part of your culture.
All right. And also, do you want to weigh in on how HR practices are evolving? Vinod just pointed out a few to us that, satellite offices will open up, bouquet of services will be given and made available to critical talent.
Yeah.
How do you see HR practices evolving?
So, quite a few things that organizations have done, Miloni, and are continuing to do. One of the key levers is this entire focus on the employee experience,
Yes.
supporting the physical, mental well being of employees, piloting shorter work weeks, or giving 1 day mandatory off every quarter, like our firm has done. Right? It's called a pens down day. You're not supposed to work. No one in the firm is supposed to work on that. And it's a mandatory holiday. Similarly, organizations are also leveraging automation to drive some of this change. So, for example, we're currently in the process of coming out with a system now. The services industry works on utilization, right? The number of hours that I put in benefits my organization because we're able to charge clients for that much time. Now, the moment the utilization crosses healthy levels, there will be a message that will go out to the employee, and there will be a message going out to the manager saying that this person is overutilized and at a risk of burnout. You need to take care of it. So, a lot of focus, therefore, on the employee well being, the entire employee purpose, employee experience, making sure that we're taking care of employees. The second element is this entire element which we spoke about earlier around upskilling workforce, building new capabilities that are essentially being really focused upon. And as Vinod pointed out, organizations are going beyond and widening their recruitment to include more diverse workers. So people from other industries, leveraging the gig economy, outsourcing work to third parties. There are even examples of organizations engaging people from overseas. I find some of the people who used to work with me now getting offers from outside India to work with consulting firms. And these are folks at the beginning of their career. This traditionally was unheard of earlier. Organizations are also trying to engage with this other pocket of employees called boomerang employees, right? So employees who just left you, maybe left for money, maybe left because of some other reason, felt everything's going to be hunky-dory, but reached another firm and realized everything is not as good as you thought it would be. Now, these are the best people who can come back. They understand your culture. They may have been doing well in your organization. So that's another thing that organizations are actually looking to do with employees, both current as well as employees who have moved out of the organization as well.
All right. Okay. I have a last question for the both of you. Is this great resignation here to stay? How do you see the remainder of 2022 play out, especially in the hiring market? Vinod?
Yeah, sure. See, this is going to stay. Uh, as I'm from the company called Japanese company, I know a lot of companies are entering India. They're opening the shops in India, and there will be a lot of poaching going to happen from all part of India. Indian talent will be on a high demand. So this is going to stay here. Now the challenges remain to the HR managers. How are you going to motivate your employee? How are you going to retain them? If money is the only thing to retain, the question mark is no. Or maybe if you do some more experiment, or like Rishi also said that you can give 1 day off or different uniforms, send them out of India for learning and development part. So all things need to be, once again, we will need to go through complete change now. We are also learning. We don't know how it's going to evolve in the future. But yes, some kind of work is going to happen. Resignation are going to stay in India. You will see I think what we understand from our experiences now, this trend is going to increase in coming time.
Miloni, and this is basis our survey, you spoke about 1 in 5 people likely to switch employer over the next 12 months. That's the global number. The number for India is 34%. That's 1 in every 3 people,
Yeah.
which is much higher than the global number. So it's here to stay, at least for this year and perhaps at least for the first quarter of next year. We will continue to see a war for talent. We will continue to see organizations trying to do their best in terms of employee experience. Ultimately, the organizations which will manage to retain talent and attract talent are the ones who understand that, as Vinod said, it goes beyond financial reward. Financial reward is more like the base, but are you offering personal fulfillment to these individuals? Can these individuals be themselves at work? That's also one of the things people are asking for. Can I be myself? And are you giving them the opportunity to be creative or innovative on the job to the extent that you can give them autonomy? So it's here to stay. But again, organizations can make use of a lot of this to make sure that they are positioned in the best possible way.
So, exciting times ahead from what you're telling us, Kartik and Vinod Rai. It's a win-win if I think people who are at jobs and employers work together and, manage expectations. That's one thing. But also try and understand each other's viewpoints and, hopefully together, everyone can succeed. So Kartik Rishi, Partner People and Organization Practice at PwC, Vinod Rai, Assistant Vice President and Head of Human Resources, Maruti Suzuki. Thank you so very much for your thoughts and for your time today.